We have a guest surprise appearance.
What are you doing here?
Detrimental. I got an action that's detrimental. Okay.
Joe Gibbs just walked in. Hi, Joe.
What's happening?
I think I'm gonna
Take a seat.
I'm gonna slide over here, Coach. You're gonna take this spot.
What do you got for me?
Pit stops. I was in this morning.
Well, oddly enough,
Perfect.
Joe's just handing me some pit stop data.
You'll see that the 11 was really
Yeah,
consistent.
I was happy.
Yeah.
Honestly, I thought my team did great all day long.
They did, yeah.
Afterwards, I mentioned that this is just a game of millimeters.
Yep.
Thousandths of an inch, and if things don't just go on perfectly, these guys have muscle memory that I hit the lug for a certain amount of time, and if there's just a little hitch or whatever, it's not tight. But our pit crew I thought did a phenomenal job all race long. They were on it, no doubt about it. This is actually the very first loose wheel that I'd had in next gen. So,
I think it also highlights how hard our sport is. Because you can have a night like that. Yep. It is so hard to put together the cars and have good cars that get each weekend to the racetrack fast. And it's so hard to do that. And yet it only takes one slight error for a night. And in some ways you kind of say, that's not right. But then again, it is right. And we just got to find a way to make it happen. So I think the first thing you do is analyze everything that happened, and then how do we improve? How do we make sure that doesn't happen again? Or how do I work on it if it's a physical thing, which that is?
Yep.
And so it's practice. It's hard practice for pit stops.
No doubt about it. It's, I love my guys. They've gotten better as the year has went on. These things happen. This is why you play the game, right? I mean, sometimes you fumble a kickoff and the other team runs it back and you end up losing the game, but that's what sports is, right? So you've seen it all.
Well, I have a bad memory because that's the second time. So I remember those. I think sometimes in sports, I'm kind of weird, I guess, because I always remember the bad things.
We're the same way. Yeah, we always know the races we lost, not the ones that we won.
That's exactly right.
So you brought me a piece of paper also here. What do you have for me today?
Surely you didn't just pop in the door here to talk about a bad pit stop.
No, I kind of want to talk about the future. Okay. So it seems like we've been pretty good for each other for a long period of time. Now, I go all the way back. I think it's one of the great sports stories. And I always tell a little story when I'm talking about Denny. I walked out of a restaurant in Manassas, Virginia, roughly 20 years ago. And there was a kid standing there. Looked like he was about 11 or 12. And he goes, "Hey, Coach, can you sign this autograph?" So he said, "Coach." I figured he's a football fan. And I took his hat, signed it, and his dad took a picture, and we still got the picture. And I handed it back to him. And when I turned to leave, he goes, "I'm going to drive for you someday." He goes, just like that. Kids say that to you because you got a race team and everything. He said, I pat him on the head. I turn around and leave, and it was Denny Hamlin. And I always, when I tell that story and Denny's around, I always tell him, "You didn't tell me I was going to have to pay you $1 million to drive for me." So that's my story. I tell that all the time in our hospitalities, but people get a kick out of it. But it's true, and it's kind of interesting how that all took place. JD goes up, wanting to buy some late model stuff, finds you, puts you in a test, puts you in a truck, puts you in a Xfinity, and says, "Let's sign Denny." And gosh, it's been great for us. And really, you've helped us build our race team.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. It's you've been right more times than not. Every time you give advice, you usually give sound advice. When I started this race team a long time ago, a few years ago, you're like, "Are you sure?" Because the drivers sure get the best end of this deal. And I've quickly realized, yes, the drivers definitely get the best end of this deal. But yeah, it's been a great relationship. I see a contract here in front of me. I'm going to sign that contract that will keep me in that 11 Camry for years to come. So thank you for everything that you do for me. Obviously, it was belief that you had in myself and JD, and the belief that he had in myself to keep this going. So certainly the relationship between us has been really, really strong. You guys kind of took over when my dad, there's a great poster out there in my garage, and it's me and JD sitting on a wall for my very first Daytona 500. My dad's in the foreground, and that was kind of the passing of the torch, right? And JD's like, I got him from here. So my parents really were a big part of making huge sacrifices for me to get to this point. But then now it's on Joe Gibbs Racing, and they kind of took over as my on-track family.
Well, my other favorite story on Denny is when we first met him, he had a beat-up Monte Carlo, I think, and that was it. And so 2 years after we signed him, I'm standing in the back of my house here on the lake. I like my house. I worked 40 years from my house. I see this jet ski come around the back. It lands on the lot next door. I walk over there, and it's Denny. And I look at him, and I go, Denny, what are you doing? He looks at me, looks at the house next door to me, and he goes, I think I just bought this house. And I go, I got ticked off. This house is twice as big as my house. Okay. And so anyway, that's my other part of the story that tells you I'm in the wrong end of everything. He doesn't listen to me. I tried to tell him, you got the perfect deal. You're driving a race car. You're going to have fun and drive a race car for a living. Everybody wants to do that. You make all the money. If we win a purse on the weekends, he gets half. He pays 4 people to mess around with his motorhome or something. I pay 450 people to work on a race car. And the other thing is they all got great-looking girls as drivers. So they got fun, money, and girls. So anyway, that's my deal. You got a good deal.
That's the trifecta.
I don't know why you want to be an owner. That's the only thing I question. And he doesn't listen to me. I will say that. That's the one other thing. The man never listens to me.
I got 2 cars. You want to buy them? No, but thank you. I appreciate you. Again, everything your family's done for me. I know that there's a strong connection. The willingness for you to take a chance on me nearly 20 years ago, and then still here when I'm 42 years old to want to continue this relationship for years to come. So thank you.
Well, I got to tell you, I can tell you, I don't think you're through. I talked to you at Watkins Glen. And to have a guy that's 42 driving a race car that had struggled some on road racing, and for him to turn around and go to work on road racing over the last year and to qualify 3 times on the pole for road races, I think it says a lot about Denny's talent, and we're excited about going forward. It means a lot to all of our guys. We got a lot of people that work there that really care about, I care. I know JD worried the whole time about our people. He was always worried about the people. And so many times we make decisions and everything, I know that weighs heavily on me, but this really, really helps us because it kind of solidifies where we're going for the next several years. And so that's what's great. And we are going to wind up for good or sometimes
this puts us
for 20, issues for 20 years.
If for 20 years we're going to be together and at least 20 years, and certainly I've said many times I've started my career with you guys. I want to end my career with you guys. The relationship has been beneficial for both, no doubt about it. Now, are you sure you want to pay me this kind of money?
Well,
you said it was only $1 million.
I've never been sure.
Yeah, only $1 million, right? Yeah, not quite. Close enough. It's close enough.
Well, I'm the guy that gets in the wrong end of everything.
I know.
So anyway,
I
what
know.
the heck?
Hey,
what the heck?
We'll pay it forward. We'll figure something out. So, thank you. Appreciate you coming on, and let's keep going.
You got it, man. Let's roll.
Before you leave, Joe, I want to hear like 1 or 2 more Denny stories.
Great.
Ones that you don't tell in your media press conferences.
Well, I can tell you lots of times. I do remember when he lived next door to me. Denny, in his early days, I would go over and talk to him and say, he's sitting on the couch. And I figure, the coach is coming next door, going to talk to you. I figured he's going to be perky and after it. And I'll swear to you, I start talking to him. He's sitting on the couch, and I was talking about some serious stuff. The man went right out on me. He slept went to sleep on. And so I learned a long time ago, I say to people, if you want to deal with Denny, ask him questions. So he needs to start talking. Otherwise, the man's going to zone out on you.
Coach,
I am a zone out guy.
I've asked Denny plenty of questions, and he also zones out. So
I have so many things going on in here that I'm thinking about at one time that I just can't. It's hard for me to put it all together and focus on what someone's saying that's directly asked me. I got to get better at that for sure.
Well, I can tell you, I finally found a way to deal with him when he was my neighbor. I put Pat, my wife, on him. And believe me, she was after him all the time.
Yeah.
Music's too loud. Quit parking the cars in my driveway. I think it took her about 18 months to run Denny out of the neighborhood. He was gone.
We had weekly parties at the house. You know, listen, I bought the house because Joe was still at Washington. He was still coaching, and I'm like, well, he won't be back anytime soon, and I'll be out of here by the time he comes back to the racing team. Oh no! Well, he came back 1 year later, and next thing you know, we're truly neighbors. So you know, when I have people over, you know, they happen to fill up the street and they block his entrance to his house, and you know, I get his wife Pat writing notes on these windshields saying, "Don't park here, don't park there, turn the music down." You know, we would have late night basketball games with a few of the Charlotte Bobcat players. Raymond Felton came, and a bunch of different guys. They'd come over and play every now and then. And but we would play late into the night. So, but yeah, it was a interesting dynamic we had as neighbors. But I sure am glad I moved off that street.
Okay, my favorite story on that. I got one more story. So they had a big party. I knew it was Saturday night. Stuff's going all night long and everything.
Saturday night.
Yeah, and so I come out the next morning and my jet ski was messed up. So I'm out there with the jet ski and it's messed up. And so there, all of a sudden I hear a bunch of them around the pool, okay? So I'm focused on the jet ski, and all of a sudden I heard this splashing of people coming towards me. And I turned around like this, and there were two girls, I swear to you, that were half dressed, okay? And here they come towards me, and I'm kind of going, I'm looking, what is this? And so they come over and they go, hey, Coach. I went, yeah. They said, hey, I left my purse on the other side of the lake. Can you take me over
sandbar?
Can you take me over there on the jet ski? Okay, now, Pat is on the back porch. I'm looking up at Pat on the back porch. So I got this girl is asking me, and I turned around and I said, not on your life. I said, and then I looked, and they're all standing back at the pool and everything. I said, there's your group. Go get those guys that take you across
Could
the
you
lake.
imagine seeing Joe with these two chicks on the back of his jet ski, taking them? Because we lived right across from the sandbar where everybody would kind of boat together. And so, yeah, they asked Joe. I mean, why they didn't ask me, I'm not sure. But they saw someone tinkering with a jet ski out, my neighbor, and they're just like, hey, come give us a ride. They didn't know he was my boss or anything like that. So, very awkward morning that day.
It was.
Sorry
anyway, we got him out of the neighborhood. That was it.
I like the context clues in this, though. You said Saturday night, jet ski, so it must be fairly warm. So it's not November through January.
No, it's an off weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Joe.
All right, man.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
We'll see you.
Ready for a few. This is going to be great. A few more years together.
Let's do it.
We're good.
I knew that we were kind of getting close with things, but when the boss puts a little in-person pressure on you, you gotta go ahead and do it.
I mean, we can confirm now you will be a race car driver for at least a few more years.
At Joe Gibbs Racing.
Yep.
Are
you the longest tenured driver at JGR? Were you the longest before this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Second might have been actually Kyle Busch, and then Tony Stewart before that.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's actually a wall right by the elevator where it has like their beginning and end dates. It's almost like a memorial of JGR drivers, and mine says through present. So
it'll say present for.
It's still gonna say present. Yeah, I don't
years.
have an end date.
What does this mean for you and 2311?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that was a big part of this process for sure. What this means is that 2311 will continue its relationship with Toyota into the future. Nothing really changes. We're going to continue on the path that we've been on. It was my goal to make that a championship organization within 5 years. We're going to continue on that trajectory. I think that we're in a good spot. Our relationship with Joe Gibbs Racing is in a good spot. So this kind of solidifies all those deals as done.
How has this relationship between JGR and 2311 grown since you started the team on this 5-year plan, and how do you see it continuing to grow now into the future?
Well, I've seen a lot of alliances come and go with Joe Gibbs Racing. A lot of it is dependent on sponsorship, as we know. The viability of any race team still heavily relies on sponsorship. That is still true, but our sales team and Steve Loletta has done just a great job of making sure we are a stable team. We've got a lot of great things going, but one thing I've noticed is that with 2311 and JGR, it is a true alliance. There's not before it's just more JGR is gets paid a service fee and essentially is really helping out the smaller teams get the information they need to compete. It's working well both ways. There are things, no question, that JGR is learning from 2311. This little old team, they do learn things from them, and we also learn a ton from them. So that's the way alliance really should work, right? Is that both teams can feed off of each other and get better together, and I think that they are.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like this is like a checkpoint, right? Is that you start 2311, Toyota relationship, form an alliance with JGR. This is now the first checkpoint. It's like, okay, everything's working well. We're going to continue this relationship on.
Yeah, this was the first time that it had come around to be really, you hit it right, a checkpoint. Like, hey, we've started this. We all agreed in the very beginning when I started this team, Toyota, JGR, here's how we're going to get this thing off the ground. But then after 3 years, it's time to re-up a deal, and we have to figure out, are we happy with the relationship as it is? Do we want to change it? All those things are super important to the long-term growth of the team. And to have everyone agree and shake hands that this is something we want to continue on this path together with is a very good thing. And so I'm really happy to see that it all got done, and now we can put it all behind us.
I don't know. What's next now?
Try to win a championship. I mean, that's at the forefront now is what do we need to do to finish this thing off over the next 9 weeks to win a championship. A lot of, I mentioned on Sirius not long ago, got all the design finished on the building last week. These contracts just got signed. We're in a good spot now to where really the focus is just on driving and doing whatever I can to win for the 11 team.
Does this take a weight off your shoulders? Like, how much time in the last handful of weeks would you say has been during your week has been dedicated to these discussions?
So much. I mean, phone calls, emails, in-person meetings, Zooms. It just never stops. It never stops because, again, every decision you make has a cause and effect somewhere, right? So you make a decision, hey, we're going to do this. Well, then how does it affect B and C? So I think that now that that is done, I see myself having a ton more time to just focus on the task at hand. So I think that my schedule is going to be dramatically better over these next 8-9 weeks.
Sweet. Love to hear it. More time to shoot some social media content.
Great.
Sounds good.